Thank you, Scott Slade. It's always great to be saving money on your power bill, to use technology wisely, and to live a more sustainable life. I'm Tim Echols. Welcome to Energy Matters. Energy Matters Live. My co-host is always Casey Boyce. Casey?
Hey, Tim. Great to be with you as always.
Hey, there's a lot of exciting things happening out there in the energy world. And you and I talk about these every week on Energy Matters as our show goes not only throughout the state of Georgia in a number of different markets, but now by podcast out all over the U.S. and the world. And we've had, Casey, a lot of very smart people come through our studios.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great to showcase the intellect and the passion and just the cool things that people in Georgia are doing. And, COVID's been bad in so many ways, but one of the things that's been really nice about it for us is that we've gotten the ability to bring in people to our virtual studio that we wouldn't have been able to bring into our Athens area studio otherwise. We've had folks from Australia, we've had folks from Texas, California. So that's been a really nice benefit of this.
Casey, coming out of 2020 with COVID, and this particular show will air just early in January of 2021. It's been a strange year, but if we think about what's ahead in 2021, I think there's some definite things that we can probably predict with some degree of certainty that are going to be talked about and moved forward. I mean, is that too bold?
No, not at all. I mean, one of the things that we've been talking with our clients about is, how 2020 kind of accelerated things 5-10 years into the future. And so we're going to see a lot of that come to fruition next year.
I'd like for us during the segment to take 5 energy trends that I think we're going to see and kind of unpack them a little bit. And Casey, I want to start with the fact that we're going to see more batteries. And I'm not talking about Energizer Bunny AA batteries. I'm talking about lithium ion batteries, other chemistries. We're going to see it in containers, supplementing the grid. We're going to see it in cars. We're going to see these grow in popularity, and we're going to see them decrease in price.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just saw something the other day looking at the decline in pricing for lithium ion batteries, and they're now right around the $100 per kilowatt hour mark, which is what experts, and that's not me, by the way, but what experts are saying is what's necessary to get price parity between electric vehicles and gas vehicles. So I think that's going to accelerate. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but even beyond that, the ability to put batteries in your home, the ability for utilities to put batteries, big batteries on the grid is huge and starts to move us away from what we've talked about a number of times on the show, where you've got to produce enough electricity at the moment that it's demanded, to being able to have a buffer within the system and store renewable energy when the wind's blowing or the sun's shining, and then release that back onto the grid when those things aren't happening.
But batteries may not be prime time yet, in the sense that we don't know everything about them. We haven't had them operating on every duty cycle for a long period of time in order to know, okay, these are going to last 3 years. These are going to last 7 years. Yeah, we know what the warranty is, but I mean, we still have some research to do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But they've been out long enough that we have some idea of how they're going to perform. And really the risk there is kind of a financial one that you're highlighting, right? If you're putting an asset into place and you're saying, okay, that's going to be there for 10 years, and then it conks out in year 8, well, then you've got another big capital cost that you weren't expecting. So certainly something to see. But, I think we've come a long way, and with the prices decreasing, that helps the financial case.
So those of you that are looking for a technology to invest in, we're pretty excited about batteries. Casey, RNG, renewable natural gas. I mean, we're hearing more and more gas companies talk about this, but we're also hearing customers ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a client that's a natural gas utility in the middle of the country, and they actually have a city that said, hey, we want you to serve us up with 100% renewable natural gas. And they can't do that right now, but it's something their customer is asking them to do for the community. And The thing that's fascinating about renewable natural gas is that there are a lot of untapped sources for it. So we've talked on the show before about using chicken litter, which there's plenty of, to create renewable natural gas. You can use hog manure, which the Carolinas have a lot of, to create renewable natural gas. Same thing even with landfills. There's a renewable natural gas capture process happening at the DeKalb County landfill, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And you've got to have the right price point in order for companies to make this kind of investment, because it is more expensive than than generating low cost electricity from utility scale solar or from just natural gas, methane coming in on the pipeline. So I think regulators are going to have to work with their legislature and others to tout the benefits of this. And we need companies chiming in saying, hey, this is a valuable commodity and we would pay a little bit more for it, maybe. Because
Absolutely.
I think there is an adder that gas companies can get for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, gas companies are realizing that they need to contribute to something else we'll talk about in a little bit, right? The issue of climate change. And so they're looking at how do they use their systems and what they deliver to do that in a really meaningful way.
Our third trend that we're looking at is more electric vehicles. And I'm sitting at the Georgia Capitol now. My electric vehicle's out on the charger in Liberty Plaza. Casey, you've got a couple of EVs. And I mean, we were early adopters, but the manufacturers are definitely making it easier for more people to feel comfortable buying an EV.
Yeah, there's something like 100 new EV models that are coming to market in the next couple of years. And the thing that's really exciting to me, Tim, is the fact that they're in segments that people want to buy. So the early EVs, like you and I had the Nissan Leaf or the BMW i3, were kind of small and kind of quirky. I loved mine, by the way. I love my i3. And I know lots of people that love their Leafs, but electric pickups are going to be huge. There's now a handful of electric SUVs out on the market. So these things are really enjoyable to drive. They're making them now in segments that people want to buy them in, and they're coming down in price, like we talked about from the battery standpoint. Some of these are very reasonable in terms of, I think the average new car price is something like $37,000. You can get in an EV for $20,000 after the tax credit. So definitely exciting times.
And my guess is you'll see an extension in this federal tax credit and possibly other incentives. So that's number three. Our first one was more batteries. Second one was more RNG, renewable natural gas. The third trend that Casey and I see is more EVs. The fourth one, Casey, is more talk or rhetoric policy about CO2 and about climate change. And I'm not necessarily excited about that, but I do think it's coming.
Yeah, the climate change is really something that is a broken market in my mind. So this idea that you can pollute the air and that nobody's really harmed by it, right, is it's considered an externality in economic terms. Well, what we know and we've known for a while is that CO2 does actually harm people over time with changing climate. It changes, growing seasons, and it changes, the intensity of storms and all of that. We've seen that over the past year. And so we really need to figure out how do we fix this broken market, whether it's through, some of the policy things that, Democrats certainly are advancing with the incoming Biden administration. There certainly are ways of addressing it from a more market-based standpoint, though those haven't gotten traction. But, as a regulator, Tim, what's your take on, how you respond to this?
My fear is that Congress may impose this system that adversely affects the way that we do business here. I mean, honestly, it's just a selfish viewpoint that I have, because I am, elected here in Georgia to serve our ratepayers. And I'm just concerned that there's going to be a policy that somehow hinders, handcuffs Georgia. But I do think it's coming, Casey, and the fact that we built new nuclear reactors, I think, really will inoculate us from the damage that a policy like that could have caused to us.
Well, certainly that's good. We'll see how things shape up over the next year or so, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the show again.
Our last trend that we see today is just more money being spent on all of the above: batteries, RNG, EVs, climate policy. I think that this is, it's a top three issue. I mean, am I being too bold, Casey? Top three issue in many minds?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at how Europe has responded to COVID, they put a lot of money into these technologies, and even the most recent stimulus that passed Congress had quite a bit in it for clean energy, both deployment and R&D. So, taking a look at what we need to do to address the climate crisis, and that involves spending money on things. And as Jigar Shah, who's the president of Generate Capital, says, it's the biggest wealth creation opportunity in our lifetimes. There's going to be a lot of private sector dollars spent on it, a lot of public sector dollars spent on it. I think this trend is definitely something we'll be seeing over the next year.
Well, thanks for tuning in, folks, today on this first segment. We hope that you've enjoyed Energy Matters. As always, catch us on WGAUradio.com to hear more back episodes. I'm Tim Echols and Casey Boyce. You're listening to Energy Matters. And we welcome your feedback. You're welcome to send us a message. I'm at Tim Echols on Twitter. Casey?
I'm at Casey Boyce on Twitter.